So what does this mean for his presentation? Robinson's historical argument is weak. It don't stand on any leg. Because by trying to claim credit selectively, he opens a hole into which both history and critical scrutiny can fall. In practical terms, this makes his economic critique very poor. It's not persuasive because it lacks grounding in full accountability and historical continuity. Listen a little bit more to the Prime Minister and I'll get back to that.
It is a point that needs to be understood that the economic struggle that the country has had to restore its economy is so that it is able to have revenues steady and stable and predictable that it can then use to maintain and provide the things you want over a long period without making bad decisions to put those revenues in peril. If you want to know what drives me, Madam Speaker, is to make sure that we never go back. If you want to know what drives me, Madam Speaker, is to make sure that we never go back. Me, Madam Speaker, is to make sure that we want over a long period without making bad decisions to put those revenues in peril. If you want to know what drives me, Madam Speaker, is to make sure that we never go back.
That's the passion of a man that cares about his country. What drives me, Madam Speaker, is to make sure that we never go back. Never go back. Okay? I tell you, the 20-year-olds, you need to listen to that. By the way, listeners, please remember to support the program. If you enjoy the work we do, remember to support the program. We have a Cash App, we have a Zelle account, and of course, you can send your contributions to there. Moderator, post that for me. I'm going to take a little break and we're going to come back with a little bit more of the Prime Minister and a little bit more critiquing of Mr. Robinson's poor performance today. You're so beautiful, God's chosen vessel. Hello, Pat. You're joining tonight for the first time. Great to have you. Great to have you. Betsy Powell, great night to you. Hi. Jamaica Princess Kay Henriquez in Canada. Hi, Kay. How you doing? Haven't heard from you in a while. Nice to have you. Victoria McLean, good night to you. Jambisco, hi. Jack Massop and Train Man, hi. Charmaine in the Bahamas. Hi, Charmaine. How are you? Helene Scarlett, good night to you. Betsy Powell, hi. Dagger Brown, turn around, my brother. You're in town, hi. Great, Charmaine. Thank you. You called me yesterday. Wow. Thank you so much. You send one Malta for me. I like that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. You sent me 2 Maltas? Oh, wow. Well, why not send 3? Thank you so much. God favored me. Beauty Chrome. Hi. Charmaine. Hi. Beauty Chrome. Wow. Watching and listening from Florida. Vilo. Hello, Vilo. How you doing? Hope you're going to be joining us Saturday for the anniversary show. Thank you, everybody. Yes, 1 year. 1 year. The Politics Plus podcast is on. Well, we started out as the voice from the vine, and then we became Hello Neighbor, and now we're the Politics Plus podcast, podcasting from Jamaica. Charmaine Care Pass Agency. Good night to you. Althea, hi. How you doing? Charmaine, thank you for your gifts, everybody. Thank you so much. Hello, Scratchy. You're all the way there in Canada, brother. Hey, how you doing? Hope you're okay. Harry, what time you coming? 5 after 8? It's great. You ready for me? On fire. You're blazing tonight. Blazing. What a blaze of glory from On Fire. The girl. She's hot. The what name? The voice from the vine? Yeah. Next week, Tuesday, opposition leader Mark Golding speaks in the budget debate. And on Thursday, 1 p.m., he will have his say. Jambisco, how you doing? Stella Pearson, hello. What a family, what a great team over here on the podcast. Our moderator is Caroline. She's always on the line. The lady behind the glass. Oh, she takes care of everything. But you need to upgrade my lunch. No, can't take no more patty. I need an upgrade in lunch, Caroline. Can I have burgers tomorrow, please? I think I deserve it, man. I work hard for tonight. Oh my God, give me a burger, no? Not a double whopper, there's a single one and orange juice. Oh, and Shafreen, no? You can buy me a milkshake. Auntie Daphne, I haven't seen you all night. Where are you? Great, Auntie Daphne. Hi. No man, oxtail too expensive. Me don't want to put my chest too high. All time people say you mustn't put your basket where you can't take it down. Beggars aren't choosers, you know, Selburn Cox. The man who visits the pharmacy. Oh, Selbert, you don't want me to let out your business? Grove Place in Manchester. How you doing? You're Manchester. Thanks for tuning in. Litchfield. Oh, Litchfield is on. They're all the way in Trelawney. Oh, the Trelawney girls. I don't want to tell you what they say about the Trelawney girls. That rhymes with Trelawney. Not to mention those in Portland. Oh, Portland girls are listening to the program. All right, they're in Christiana. My goodness, I have some students listening from the Old Harbor High School. Oh, you're 18? Well, great to have you. You like politics? You want to be a politician? By the way, Tari, how are you, Tari? Top Country 401. You give me lunch tomorrow. You're going to get me the oxtail. Navi, Navi, hi, how you doing? Daphne, you're clocking late? Don't be late, girl. You're late for classes. You're going to get a suspension, you know. What a fantastic team we have over here tonight. Shafreen, how you doing?
Well, neighbor, how are you again?
Yeah, did you listen to Julian Robinson today?
I did. And you know, like at this point, I don't expect anything less than more than lackluster from them. You know? Because what are those? Like he spent more than half the time talking down on the government, but it's not even like anything factual. It's just, oh, I'm just gonna say things just because I have a mouth. And
yeah.
I'm gonna just use it to talk. You know what I mean? And then what is this? Electronic invoicing system? I had to listen to that twice. Because I'm like, what is that? It's literally...
Yeah, I saw you making some comment on that.
I understand it as he's expecting to get $8 billion from micromanaging GCT. Where are you gonna get the extra $8 billion from if you're already getting the GCT? Where it's gonna come from? Through some crack of it? I don't know. But what he's saying though, he's gonna have to. What he's proposing is this, right? He's proposing to integrate it into some kind of software system that costs money. To do any kind of software integration development project, that's 2 to 4 billion. Sorry, not billion. 2 to 4 million US dollars per project. Does Jamaica want to spend $2 to $4 million US dollar to go micromanage GCT? I don't think that's good use of taxpayers' money. And then in addition to that, he's gonna have to hire extra staff in. So how much is that gonna be? Plus the project team. So then he's gonna have to look at getting people from the private sector organization, as well as within the ministries, who can actually work on the team in a cohesive manner with the developer. So what he's saying, it's just gibberish. Like how are you gonna implement something like this, right? And then where are you gonna squeeze $8 million from it? If the GCT is already being paid to the government. So where's the extra? What are you gonna do? Increase tax? What are you doing? Like that to me, fail. F minus if there's such a grade, you know. And the digital nomad, like what the? Look here, people. Whoever can manage to go around and travel for half the year because it's too cold in their country and work elsewhere, they don't. Jamaica's not the only place they can choose from. So you need to know, you can't be charging tourists to come to Jamaica and charge them $2,000 a head to come to Jamaica because they're gonna stay there. So you're gonna charge them what? A visa fee for $2,000 US dollar? That's gonna deter people from coming. People already, you see, you go on social media, see people posting videos of them coming to Jamaica. You know they can get digital services in Jamaica. They'll rent Airbnb. They're already contributing to the economy. And if they plan to stay there and work, we know through online or other means, then, you know, they do that. But to think that is something you can go prey on people who are just, you know, like who are in love with the culture, in love with Jamaica, and just love working in Jamaica, then what you're gonna do? You're gonna deter people from even want to come there. You need to understand this. Tourists in these colder countries have choices where they want to go, right? Jamaica is beautiful, but sometimes people have to look. I mean, like, people have to look at the how much things cost versus how much they're gonna make back. They're gonna pay $2,000 to go to Jamaica. They could go to Bali for free. They won't have to pay to stay in Bali for 6 months. They go there, their expense, their living expense, their rent, whatever they have to pay for their services and bills, food. But the government, is the government hounding them to get extra money? No. So that's just gonna like deter people from wanting to come to Jamaica to work. And right now, Jamaica is a great place for people to go and work, and people even live stream their experience while they're in Jamaica, working, renting from Jamaicans who own properties in Jamaica, contributing to the economy, going out to places like Borneo and stuff, buying their fish and things. Like, I don't know if this person is a pie in the sky, but all these things, you know. And to the icing on the cake, go get a loan from the Bank of Jamaica for $10 billion. But and the same NHD that they put in place and put law in place to draw from every year was talking about that as though, you think people fool? Does he think people are dumb? You know? The
hold
NHD,
on.
like he just opened up can of worm and pantry of scandal bag.
Yeah, hold on, Shafreen. Hold on. Top night to everybody. 13 after 8 o'clock. We have Harry. Harry will be up next.
So, Madam Speaker, so if you want to know what is the root of our problems today, it is the bad policies of the PNP in the 1990s. what is the root of our problem. So, Madam Speaker, so if you want to know what is the root of our problems today, it is the bad policies of the PNP in the 1990s. Madam Speaker, they don't like to hear this. And 90% of Jamaica may not appreciate and understand it, but we're going to bring the facts.
The members' time for speaking.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Speaker.
Members, the members' time for speaking.
Madam Speaker.
Well, Mr. Robinson opened up a can of worm. Let's listen a little bit more to the Prime Minister. Give me a minute. Beat and teach them. Beat and teach them. Beat and teach.
Madam Speaker, the root cause of the crisis, the FinSac crisis, was the premature policy decisions of the PNP to liberalize the foreign exchange market in 1991 without the necessary preconditions such as reserves in place. In other words, they went to party but didn't have any money. This triggered a rapid depreciation of the Jamaican dollar and skyrocketing prices, with inflation reaching 80% in 1991 and 40% in 1992. Not having any rent money to ward off speculators, the government then tried to protect the exchange rate through exorbitant interest rates. As a result, productive enterprises, especially small businesses, were unable to service their loans, and the loans became non-performing. Mounting non-performing loans and loan defaults then caused banks to collapse. Madam Speaker, the PNP's high interest rate policy created a two-tiered economy. One, where cash-rich speculators thrived while productive businesses drowned in insurmountable debt. This led to what a prominent member of the PNP described as the largest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich since slavery. Madam Speaker, who were the beneficiaries of this wealth transfer from the poor to the rich? Is there anyone in this house who was a part of this ill-conceived policy, whose business it was to profit from the great transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich? Led to what a prominent member of the PNP described as the largest transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich since slavery. Madam Speaker, who were the beneficiaries of this wealth transfer from the poor to the rich? Is there anyone in this house who was a part of this ill-conceived policy, whose business it was to profit from the great transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich? The fallout was immense. It is estimated that over 40,000 businesses collapsed, wiping out entrepreneurs and leaving thousands destitute. This decimated the manufacturing sector in Jamaica, burdened with high-cost debt, unable to retool to keep competitive. Many factories closed during this period. We recall companies like Thermoplastic, Highgate Food Products, Home Electrics, and others too numerous to name that could not survive the inhospitable climate that FINSAC created. Madam Speaker, those who formed the government that presided over this economic debacle have never apologized or even expressed any remorse. Worse, they have the audacity to lecture this administration on how to run an economy.
Well, that's what Mr. Robinson was attempting to do today. Coming to lecture. Yes? Lecture the government. Don't lecture the government, man. Don't lecture the government, sir. Come to Parliament as a responsible opposition. Put alternative prescriptions on the table. Show the people of Jamaica how you would do it. Don't come lecture the government. Government don't need no lecture. Because you don't pass no tests. You don't have no degree. You can't lecture. To lecture, you have to have your PhD. And you don't have no PhD. You know? You have no lecturing skills here. PNP can lecture. Easy. Right? If you want to be taken seriously, provide alternative prescriptions. Show the people of Jamaica what you would do. Don't take us back. Because you can't, you don't have the record to do it. You don't have the credibility to do it. Don't take us back. Now, don't make us get angry. Don't make me get angry here when you take us back, because you're steering our memories, the psychological memory. Huh?
For the next 20 years after the PNP inflicted FINSAC, the FINSAC shock, we basically just meandered along as a country with no attempt to fix the real problem. Our debt situation was already unsustainable when the global financial crisis hit in 2008-2009, and that took the country to the verge of bankruptcy. The real attempt at grappling with high debt, high interest rate, this vicious cycle created by the PNP, started with the Bruce Golding-led administration of 2007 to 2011.
No. Robinson didn't say that today. You see a Porsche do it. Listen to the Prime Minister.
Indeed, we fathered the deep structural reforms needed to break the PNP-created debt crisis. The debt inherited from the PNP had reached unsustainable levels, and it was under the leadership of Bruce Golding and Audley Shaw Manayard supported by enlightened and patriotic members of the private sector and reasonable unions that the first structured debt exchange was engineered.
Did you hear Mr. Robinson today speak about the debt exchange? Selective amnesia. Did you hear Mr. Robinson speak about the debt exchange? You see why the PNP is not credible? You see why the PNP is not credible? Right? And Mr. Robinson is suggesting that it is, you know, Mr. Mark Golding. Mr. Mark Golding said that Jamaica was at the precipice. Jamaica was a disaster. And the PNP is trying to give Jamaica the impression that somehow the macroeconomic stability that the country is now experiencing is as a result of Portia Simpson Miller and Peter Phillips. What an absurd set of people. What an absurd set of people we're having to deal with over here. Quite frankly, I don't think it would be incorrect to suggest that they are dishonest. I never said they lie. I said they are dishonest. It is more elegant, you know, diplomatically elegant to say they are dishonest than to call them liars. History can be selective, Mr. Robinson. You can't be selective when you're using, when you're pointing to history. You have to tell the whole story. All right? And that is what the Prime Minister is attempting to do here, and I think will do next week.
JDX, this pulled Jamaica from the brink of another financial collapse by successfully reducing Jamaica's interest cost, extending debt maturity, improving debt sustainability, and giving the country the credibility to approach the IMF. We put in place the fiscal responsibility framework, which enhanced transparency, accountability, and reporting on public finances and place limits on the fiscal deficit.
Okay. So then, which party is responsible for the macroeconomic stability? If the PNP created the problem in the 90s and Bruce Golding established the framework, which party is responsible for the stability? Come on, Mr. Robinson. Why? Is there a member of the PNP in the chat? Yeah? Goffman? Caution? Durval? Which are you? Mr. Robinson himself? Huh? Mr. Crawford? Which member of the PNP is listening to us? Who can come up here and argue the case for the party? The party has lost credibility. It's a nonsense speech Mr. Robinson went down there to make. It's a full speech. And if Mr. Robinson wrote that himself, he should be fired. Or he should dismiss his speechwriters. Perry, are you listening? Somebody come rescue the PNP now. Not even one. Somebody can come up and rescue the party tonight. Party's sinking, drowning. Who is rescuing the party tonight? Who could come up and say, what we are saying here, what we are playing is not true. The structural adjustments began under Golding and Shaw. Why? Why? So who led the country to a precipice? The Labour Party for 4 years? How could the party in 4 years have led Jamaica to the brink of the disaster? Golding? We're gonna get back a little to Mr. Holness. Harry?
Night, neighbor.
How you doing, sir?
Hearing me, neighbor?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Oh, I was just double checking. Sure. How everybody doing?
Yeah. Doing all right, man. Let me finish with the Prime Minister, and you just hold on there for me, Harry. Let me finish with the Prime Minister.
This was the basis for the fiscal rule legislation and all the other reforms we have today. We took tough steps to divest loss-making public entities such as the Sugar Company and Air Jamaica, which under the PNP racked up huge debts and operating losses carried over from the 18.5 years of poor management and lack of superintendence of public bodies. And when we were the opposition, we did our part in supporting and developing many nascent measures, including working assiduously on every piece of legislation required to meet the IMF timelines. I gave direct instruction to my members of the House and the Senate that we must not hold up any of the IMF bills. We were a responsible and constructive father, even in opposition. We acted in the interest of Jamaica's economic recovery. In everything we did, we chose Jamaica over narrow political partisan gain. No one on this side said that the PNP did not contribute to the national effort to restructure and reform the economy and bring down the debt. As recently as November last year at the launch of our Next Chapter policy pivot, I said, and I quote, "Let me express my deepest gratitude to all who played a role in this transformation. Leaders from both sides of the political aisle, business leaders, our civil service, unions, members of civil society, and most importantly, the people of Jamaica. I want to specially recognize and thank the Honorable Bruce Golding, former Prime Minister. The Most Honorable Portia Simpson Miller, former Prime Minister. The member, you know, Madam Speaker. Yeah, Madam Speaker. There's a running joke between myself and the member from East Kingston and Port Royal. You know, he is her adopted first son, and I am her adopted and reclaimed second son. You remember I was disowned for a little period of time. But the member from East Kingston and Port Royal know that we made up. So it was very easy for me, with no malice or ill feeling or ill will, to acknowledge the work and contribution of the Most Honorable Portia Simpson Miller. The Honorable Peter Phillips, former leader of the opposition and Minister of Finance.
Now, you see the difference between honest assessment and political rhetoric, which is dishonest. Yeah? A period of transition being recognized. But it is important to understand what caused the problem. And there are many who will tell you that the opposition was forced into accepting the arrangements of the IMF at the time. Let's a little bit more quiet.
The Honorable Audley Manayard Shaw, former Minister of Finance. Nigel Clark, former Minister of Finance. Richard Biles, Governor of the Bank of Jamaica and former Chairman of the Economic Policy Oversight Committee, EPOC. Keith Duncan, who took over as Chairman of EPOC after Mr. Biles. All the members, and I'm eternally and always grateful to all the members of the National Partnership Council. But
All right. So, Harry, Harry, give us your take. You listened to the presentation today. You thought it was a good attempt by Robinson, or you think it fell short?
Neighbor, I think I predicted exactly what he would have come with, right?
Uh-huh.
Because I remember I said he would have come with the theatrics,
Yes.
and so said, so done. I think he brought the cheerleading out of the opposition. Because that what I heard, neighbor, was things that aren't realistic. Things that
Yes.
he put forward is selling Jamaica a dream. He's definitely not trying to fix the no. And I'll break it down in a few, right? But it's not what Jamaica needs right now.
Uh-huh.
It is something that the opposition is trying to polish off, because the approach was to try and discredit not just the finance minister, but to discredit the administration for the last decade by going back in history strategically and tie it in with something they've been running with for quite a while. In fact,
Yes.
it was a part of their election campaign, that period, right? Which we did break down a few weeks ago, maybe 2 months, as to why we were at the IMF. And they have sought to want to package it to say that it was their idea, it was them who did it, and he went straight to it. No, I laughed because I knew the moment he mentions that, he has to go back to the 2011 period, because that is the context. And if you then pull that period, you have just opened up an assault rifle on yourself. It's almost like he strapped a bomb on his chest when he did it. And I say
Yes.
that because he opened up what happened in the 90s. He,
Yes.
after doing that, could have been deemed a suicide mission, and so said, so done. Because you cannot conveniently leave out critical part of history. If you mention, let's use his own thing, that it was so poor, that period was poor, but you didn't also tell us how we got there. You told us how you got to the IMF,
Yes.
but you never tell us
Why?
how we got to 07, what happened there. And funny enough, it was his party that championed, and heavy on the word champion, which is an irony, 18 and a half years, which brought us to 07. So what he did, thinking he was slick enough, and it was him, neighbor, I'll take it as an insult to the 20-year-olds. Here's why.
Yes. Yes. Very important point. Because that's the cohort that they seem to be targeting now for the next election.
Yeah. And here's why I say it's a disrespect to the 20-year-olds. Because 20-year-olds know, and 20-year-olds, for example, your time, neighbor, is far different. Access to information, all of that.
Yeah.
But it was an attempt to not just murky the water or muddy the waters, but to try and act as if that 18 and a half years never happened. You don't get the right to remove Jamaica's true history by just telling a portion off. And he also did something, neighbor, and this is why I said he's campaigning. He started off by bigging up the 401,913 people that voted for the People's National Party. That part of the speech was Mark Golding's, right? Because he was the biggest cheerleader. I mean, barring Miss Burchell, he was the biggest cheerleader.
The opposition leader.
Right. Because you could hear him. And he said something in the background about talking about job creation and so on in the 90s. And that was his biggest blunder. Because none of that existed.
Huh.
And as such, as Julian Robinson opened up, thinking he has the upper hand, landing punch, he's punching mid-air.
Punching mid-air.
Yes, neighbor. he thought, oh yes, I have the finance minister and the administration on the back foot now. He's going to land a big blow. All to end up punch himself and fall over the rope. Because now he has brought embarrassment on himself the moment you open up the 90s.
Absolutely. Yes.
That was the period which crippled Jamaica. That was, and I'm going to use what Manley says. Manley did state that, you know, it's a time where they will never walk on their knees, but on their feet. That period was championed by the People's National Party, which put us on our knees begging to come out of survival mode. We're now out of survival mode. And that is the period in which, thinking they have the upper hand, Mr. Robinson made the biggest blunder of himself. I heard you use the cricket reference name, a clean bowled, but I think this one he chopped it on the stump.
He played it on.
Yeah, man. He
yeah.
Clear. But there are some things in which he thought are solutions.
Before you go on, Harry, you go on, in terms of political strategy, because you know that political speeches are crafted by the party in terms of what is the strategy. And clearly, the strategy here seemed to be, let's see if we can speak to the younger people. Let's see if we can get the young people to credit us with some of the credit that is going to the administration. In other words, the economic stability that the government is now enjoying. Let's see if we can get the people to understand that we are responsible for it. You see that?
Exactly, neighbor. Exactly. Yeah. But you know what's the funny thing about it? While I was listening, because I listened when it started. While I was listening, I was going through some of the stuff he said, and I looked to my co-worker. And when he touched the 2011 period, I said to her, "Do you know Christine Lagarde?" And she said, "No." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to show you a picture." And when I showed her the picture, and she recalled that Christine Lagarde was the president of the IMF at the time, I then replayed a part of her memory to recall that Christine Lagarde was in our media, on our news, at least once every month for that PMP's period.
Yes.
I have never, maybe if I'm not mistaken, all of we could have, it's just like I say anti-favor, we could have said anti-Christine. That's how often we could have given her a citizen of Jamaica through naturalization to how often she was here. And you don't get the president of a world institution like that to be technically living in your country unless you can't be trusted.
Yeah.
You had to be overseen by the highest member of the organization. Neighbor, that said something about the government at the time. That also said the fact that we didn't have our sovereignty. And
yes,
that is what Julian Robinson wants to campaign on, because he's in full campaign mode. Then let's speak to the fact that you literally gave up the country's sovereignty to an institution because we didn't craft any of those laws, right? None of those fiscal policies, which we needed, you know. We needed.
Yes.
But the framework was never there to accept it just yet. The framework started in 2007. And if it's one thing, if we're building a house, you need the foundation first. You need to dig out first. And the period between 2007 and 2009 was the digging phase by the Bruce Golding's administration. Neighbor, our financial sector revisited the baby stage after what happened in the 90s, leading into the early 2000s.
Yes.
So we had to dig foundation for a new place. Now, the next phase of it was what IMF brought the catalyst to. Because that was the next phase in which the Bruce Golding administration needed continuity to reach. Because the groundwork had to be laid.
In other words, we the people of Jamaica made a flawed political decision when they thought that re-electing the PNP in 2011 was the solution.
Exactly. And,
Uh-huh.
and the thing about it is the 07 to 011 period of the bitter medicine was that foundation to be laid. What was coming after was where that bitter medicine.
The prescription that the young prime minister at the time, Holness, was honest enough to tell the people of Jamaica that we needed to go through a period.
Definitely, neighbor, because everything is a process and a phase, and that is where we were going. So really and truly, and this is going to be blatant and blunt, it didn't matter who was the administration going into that time.
Yes.
That was the next phase we had to enter if we wanted to go forward. So you can't take credit for something that is mandatory.
That's a good statement. So the point is, if Holness had won the election in 2011, the same bitter medicine administered by the PNP would have to be administered by Shaw.
Exactly. Now, with that period, neighbor, the only and one of the major difference was that the administration at the time had the technocrats that knew how to do it, which means it would have been
that's the Labour Party,
the Jamaica Labour Party, because they would have done it, and this is probably innate to the Jamaica Labour Party because we're experiencing now where they do things phase by phase. In fact, I can put it back even further. When Manley wanted to deregularize the economy, Edward Seaga begged him to not open the gates fully. Tempt it by attempting to do a little test run of opening one phase. And they said, no, let's do everything one time. And that brought tears to Seaga's eyes at the time. And we know what the result was. No, and that is to say, Jamaica Labour Party has always done things phase by phase. And that would have kept our sovereignty in that PMP's period, the 2012 going to 2016, early 2016 period. We would have held our sovereignty had we not put the People's National Party there. In fact, we would have been able to actually make suggestions, because understand this in a neighbor.
Hold on. The sovereignty you speak about is the sovereignty between 2011, 2016.
Right.
And you are saying we lost our economic sovereignty?
We did, neighbor. We didn't call the shots.
Oh my.
We were puppet on a string. We were directed.
Who was calling the shots?
IMF was calling the shots, neighbor. Whatever Christine Lagarde said at the time, which is she's the president of IMF at the time, had to be done. We didn't have a say.
But then it's worse than I thought. Because the fact of the matter is that we were brought back into systemic enslavement.
Of course. In fact, neighbor, to paint the bigger picture, the People's National Party, I believe in the 80s or so on, used to say that, oh, Seaga sold out Jamaica, right? To the US. If I'm to be brutally honest, that is the same thing the People's National Party did. When they went ahead and got that in terms of IMF deal, which was coming either way, they did not have the know-how and the technocrats and the persons to negotiate at the table. So we lost any sense of negotiation.
It was a very technical deal, and they never had the people to represent them at the table.
They didn't, because here's why.
Wow.
It was our financial sector that was crippled. The financial sector that was technically ravished. Because in the 90s, we had a very young sector that was just trying to understand how to work. And they killed it. So now we had to hit the restart button. And as such, started to build out because the frameworks were not fully there. The deal that IMF came with was capitalizing the framework and pushing it a lot sooner. And it brought good returns. Now, That is the thing in which the People's National Party want to take credit for. They, in fact, to show how serious it is, neighbor, the People's National Party without the IMF, let's say we gave them the money, all right? Same money that the IMF was giving to help us. The People's National Party would not have had the understanding, the persons required, the global trajectory and where the world was going to input those same frameworks. So the IMF brought it. And that's why I said they had no negotiation and no negotiate capability. Because if it's one thing, if you look at the Jamaica Labour Party's financial team, not the minister, the team, and compared to the team that the People's National Party has always had across all decades, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s coming up, you will undoubtedly understand why I make that statement. They have never been able to put a good team together. They've always relied on one man, and that one man never had the know-how. Because understand this, in a neighbor, you have to be well-traveled, not necessarily physically, but that helps. You have to be traveling in terms of philosophically, psychologically,
yes,
technically. You also have to know where the world is going in order to keep your country on the go, to keep your country stable, to keep your country financially able to not just maintain itself, but to take advantage of any opportunity coming our way, or potential ones that you'd want to come your way, which means you become a lot more competitive.
What a
no,
fascinating
the People's National
discussion
Party
it is.
didn't have that.
What a
That in itself, neighbor, they did not have, and I stand by that, because they can put up the best People's National Party financial team, the best one, and I can give you just the one from the 80s for the Jamaica Labour Party. I don't have to put the Nigel Clark era, which, by the way, Anti-Favor was a part of. Right?
Yes.
And you would actually realize that if the IMF didn't come crawling, we would have been Greece of the Western Hemisphere. And Mr. Robinson made the mistake by mentioning Greece, because I'm one who always look at that. It was his party that brought us to the Greece status. So now you can't come and take credit for what the IMF did. You can't come. In fact, neighbor, in that period, whenever our Prime Minister traveled, we were a laughing stock. Whenever members from that administration traveled on the global stage, we were never taken seriously.
My God.
And when you look at it, and this is the thing, you know, they didn't even grow the National Reserve as they want to claim. These are the things, neighbor, in which Julian Robinson want to credit the Portia-led administration at the time. And that is not so. And he has to, and he wants to speak about truth. Lay it all on the table.
My God.
That is how serious that
the
period
ministers
was.
of the government were not respected abroad.
Neighbor, we were laughing stock. I mean, Scratchy told you, in Washington, them laugh off away. And by admission, we had ministers who spoke about that as well. Peter Phillips said he doesn't wish it on anybody else.
Yes.
Their tongues will tell the truth, neighbor, and little by little it is happening. Now, Julian Robinson think that he can pull that over the 20-year-old's head, who at that time don't know nothing about this, don't understand it. So he's thinking, if I can give them piece of the history and leave out critical information, they can win them coming the next 5 years. But understand, this is not the Stone Age. This is not the age where you can't get information. This is also the age, neighbor, where you can't hide anything on the internet.
Yes.
And all it takes is for one person, and this is the beautiful thing about algorithm.
Yes,
We
sir.
can be in the same room, neighbor, because I can go, let's say go to UE and step in a lecture room, which is normally one of the biggest rooms there is on the campus. And I can search for a video regarding this topic. And I can speak it aloud, just a 5-minute statement. And I guarantee you at least half of that room will get some form of information popping up through the algorithm sending via their devices when they go and search, whether it be YouTube, Instagram, whatever it is, it will prompt them. And Mr. Robinson has to be very careful because that is the age we're in. It's a digital era. And you can, without saying it to people, you can just enter their environment and change their algorithm with very little things. Because I can tell you, neighbor, have you ever go on like Google and you search for one thing, and then as you come off and go on any other platform, you start to see pop-ups?
Yes, sir.
That is the era we're in. So their lies can come to the forefront no matter what they say. But his recommendations are very unrealistic. And I'm happy, because I'm in the financial era, neighbor, but my baby is tourism. And he rubbed me wrong with the digital nomad thing. And I know Sheffreen came and Sheffreen fired a lot of shots. But thank you, Sheffreen, for preempting our listeners on that. That one makes no sense, neighbor, because it already has been happening naturally through globalization. You don't charge people for anything. What you need to do is to tighten any leakage and also allow for your country to be more competitive and attractive to these people. What you do is when they're attracted to your country, they will stay longer. And to remove the leakage is that you ensure that the local ecosystem where those persons are, they participate in it, meaning they spend, they go to places, they share, as they go on and soak up that culture, they spend. So you don't charge them to come. You don't charge them for anything. What you do, you incentivize them to want to continue to be a part of that ecosystem. So if they're going to an Airbnb in let's say Portland, you want them to be in and around the locals. You want them to buy arts and craft. You want them to spend something at the corner shop. You have to entice them that way. That is the issue with this. But Mr. Robinson wants to pass it off as if you can get the actual money that way. No. This is a destination management thing, and anybody out there who studied tourism or is studying it, maybe a second or third year student, will learn about this. They will.
Fantastic. Wow, my brother, you've left me speechless. I'm lost for words. Let me see if I can find a few words too.
and I don't touch the electronic invoice system yet, neighbor, because that is a field that I've been in for the last 5 years. So Mr. Robinson, he opened something, neighbor, where I don't think if he's even here tonight he can defend.
Why, I tell you, I'm not one that get lost for words easily, but right now I'm struggling to find words to speak. Harry, sorry, today I'm even confused. Scratchy, good night to you, sir.
Good night, Scratch. Night, neighbor. Night, everyone on the platform.
Good night to you, Scratchy. No, Scratchy. Fixing the now. Robinson is fixing the now. You are the political analyst here, Scratchy. You understand the politics more than we do. Clearly, the theme for the PNP's next election is taking shape through the budget. As you explained to us the other night, parties sit down to craft their budget presentation. It's not a one-man thing. Clearly, Scratchy, the PNP seem to be going after a set of people in the country that they feel don't know the history of Jamaica and probably may not be interested in the history either. Do you think that Mr. Robinson's presentation matched the ambition of his theme, which is fixing the now, building the future? That's the ambition. Or did the theme promise much than the speech delivered?
That's definitely neighbor. I think the speech, the team neighbor, promised way more than what the speech itself delivered neighbor. Mr. Robinson today neighbor was very flat. I mean, nothing creative neighbor. Nothing new to matching the economy neighbor that is coming out of a disaster. Most of what Mr. Robinson come with today neighbor is for an economy neighbor that is not trying to build back strong after losing 42% of your economy.
Yes.
Those are not the things that they come with neighbor after a disaster. So definitely neighbor, a flat, baseless speech from Mr. Robinson, more theatrics than anything. I know, and he went back to even trying to compare about the 2007 to 2011 time neighbor. Well, I mean, I can say neighbor that 2007 Jamaica faced the world recession. We already wasn't in a very strong position when we faced that world recession. So, going into 2010, 2011 neighbor, the proxy groups neighbor of the Jamaica of the People's National Party. And when I say proxy groups, I mean the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, the Jamaica Nurse Association, the Jamaica Teachers Association, and even some of the unions, unions represented by Lambert Brown, Granville Valentine neighbor, and persons like those. Those are the persons neighbor who really caused the government to derail the IMF program or the IMF deal that was in place at that time. So yes, I will say yes, neighbor. Yes, the Jamaica Labour Party formed the IMF deal, yes, during that time because of PNP Praxis group. They were the same one who propped those groups to come and attack the government, neighbor. So I can say, neighbor, again, going into 2012 now, 2016, I have to lay the facts where the facts are, neighbor. And the Prime Minister has alluded to this more than once, neighbor, that the PNP, they did play the role, neighbor, and the role that they played, neighbor, we have to understand how politics work again. I can't say this, neighbor, without any water in my mouth, neighbor. Going into 2012, neighbor, 2016, neighbor, Jamaica Labour Party government couldn't get IMF deal. A Jamaica Labour Party government wouldn't get IMF deal neither.
Would not get it.
A Jamaica Labour Party government, neighbor, would not get an IMF deal, neighbor. We have to understand, you see, God work in mysterious ways, neighbor.
Oh?
PNP formed government back in 2012, neighbor, because Jamaica Labour Party would not have gotten an IMF deal, neighbor. We have to understand how politics work. At the time, the Democratic Party was also in power, neighbor. A party that shared the same ideology and belief as the People's National Party. And we didn't get that IMF deal neither because the PNP was a great steward of the economy. We got that IMF deal neighbor through personal connection. We had persons who were members of the Black Female Caucus of Congress.
Oh,
so
yes.
They were the one in America neighbor who lobbied the IMF to give us that deal. It wasn't done solely on the part of the People's National Party. When we even got that deal neighbor from the IMF was over our back with a big stick up right through. They were the one dictating the pace of how we did. So it's not like the PNP did anything creative, neighbor. But yes, they definitely did pass the test and we needed that at the time.
Give me a second there, Scratchy, because it's fascinating that you mentioned God. And I don't hear you in a lot of your conversation with me mentioning God. It's interesting that you have invoked that tonight. You said God moved in a mysterious way. It's almost like all things work together for good.
Yes, neighbor. God love Jamaica as a country, neighbor. We are blessed and highly favored by God, neighbor.
To position where we are now. The Lord make them come to get through that period.
Neighbor, the PNP had were the one to bring us through that part, neighbor. They had to be the one to bring us through that water. That was their time and they would never see back it. So come to 2016 now, neighbor. It's like they gave the Jamaica Labour Party the government, neighbor. We just, if you use construction terminology, neighbor, I don't know if you know construction. But it's like you put up 4 walls. Putting up 4 walls, neighbor, that doesn't mean that you completed the job or you completed the house. It was Andrew Oneless, neighbor, now through his creativity now, neighbor. Because if you're in construction, neighbor, I can tell you, neighbor, the hardest part of construction is finishing, you know. The hardest part of construction is finishing, neighbor. It don't take nothing to put up 4 walls, neighbor. Finishing is the hardest part of that. So in 2016, neighbor, Andrew Oneless now was tasked with responsibility, neighbor, to make some very serious decision, creative decision, neighbor. Is he going to slab the roof, neighbor? Is he going to use shingles or is he going to use zinc? You know, so Andrew Oneless had to make those type of decisions, neighbor, and he decided to go with shingles and slab instead of using pure zinc and board because he know how fragile it was. And he used his creativity, neighbor, to put us on the path. Now, look at what Jamaicans are reeling success from, neighbor. Jamaicans are not reeling success from what the PNP is fighting for, neighbor. Because what the PNP did, neighbor, was just pass the tests. But it take creativity, neighbor, to put Jamaica, moving the minimum wage, neighbor, to 16,000. It took creativity to do that, neighbor. The part program, adding more money to part program, neighbor. It took creativity to do that, neighbor. Massive increase in the salary for public sector workers. It took creativity to do that. You know, 40 billion there for Spark program, it took creativity to do that, neighbor. 3.5% unemployment rate, it took creativity to do that. Not just passing IMF test, it also took creativity to do that. You know, when I look at the poverty rate being slashed, creativity to do that, neighbor. So we're not going to get caught up in Julian Robinson and the PNP neighbor and the tit for tat neighbor as to who did this or who did that neighbor. This is government neighbor. And it's a continuing thing with government. Government has to play a continuous role with each other. So I'm not going in the tit for tat with the PNP, but I can say to the neighbor that whatever we are wheeling from or whatever success we are having right now, it is not solely because of what the PNP did in 2012 to 2016, because all they did, neighbor, yes, they passed the test, but they passed the test, neighbor, with a big stick being over their backs. So the creativity, neighbor, came in place, neighbor, when Andrew Holness and his government formed government, neighbor, in 2016 till now. And that is why Jamaica gave them 3 consecutive terms, because it's creativity take, neighbor, to bring unemployment down to 3.5%. It's creativity take to slash the poverty rate. It's creativity take to bring the minimum wage to 16,000. It's creativity take to have over 100 water projects. It is creativity take, neighbor, to add $90 billion to the security budget, where we are seeing a decline in murders and major crimes. So it's not done. And the Prime Minister himself alluded in, neighbor. The Prime Minister himself gave Peter Phillips his flowers, neighbor, for what he did over that time, neighbor. And I'm going to also do it. I'm not going to come and say reality. I'm not going to work with the Prime Minister. So we are see a no. But Julian Robinson, neighbor, no match to the Jamaica Labour Party, neighbor. It's not just all about passing the IMF test. It's about creativity, and that was what Jamaica was lacking. Because Jamaica has been passing IMF test from way in the 80s, neighbor. But we were lacking creativity, and Andrew Holness was the one who come, neighbor, with that creativity, with Nigel Clark, neighbor, who came with that creativity and advanced the country further, neighbor. As I say, the PNP gave us the country, neighbor. It was like a construction, a house with just 4 walls, and Andrew Holness was tasked with the responsibility, neighbor, to choose if he's going to use shingles, if he's going to use zinc, or if he's going to slab the roof, neighbor. What type of doors is he going to put on? What type of windows is he going to put in? What type of tiles is he going to use? How the bathroom fittings are going to look? And he did an excellent job, neighbor, in finishing that house, neighbor, making that house presentable to a living condition where persons can live in, where persons can feel comfortable in. And that is why, neighbor, we're so proud of reading the success of that right now.
Okay, Mr. Robinson strategy framed his presentation, as I said earlier, around fixing the now, building the future. After listening to this speech, did you hear a clear roadmap for fixing the now? Was there anything that you heard from Robinson that suggests that he can't fix anything?
I mean, Julian Robinson, neighbor, a lot of persons we tend to look at anti-favor, neighbor, in terms of her presentation and her delivery style, neighbor, and stuff like that. We must also look at Julian Robinson, neighbor, not one of the most favorite politicians, neighbor, not my most favorite politician, neighbor, a very boring politician to me. Julian Robinson, a very flat and boring politician to me, neighbor. One of the politicians, neighbor, who I see always come as an opposition spokesperson, neighbor. And as someone who he always come and talk about the economy and talk about this and he always seem to come strong at anti-favor, neighbor, whenever he's doing his budget presentation. And I tend to look at things different. Someone, neighbor, who I don't think, neighbor, has contributed much towards the development or the advancement of Jamaica, Julian Robinson, neighbor. His father might have done more for Jamaica, but not him. So definitely, neighbor, his speech to the neighbor was far from the reality, neighbor, of the team that they came with. I don't know if most of the substance is left with his bobblehead leader, for his leader to come and finish what he had to say. But definitely, neighbor, Julian Robinson for me today, neighbor, definitely flat, neighbor. And I would definitely give him a 2 out of 10, neighbor. I didn't get anything that enticed me.
Did you say 2? Did you say 2, sir?
Yes, neighbor, 2 out of 10, neighbor. 2 out of 10. And that number stick with them definitely, neighbor.
1, 2, 1, 2.
1, 2, neighbor, out of 10, neighbor. That's the neighbor. I didn't come out of that presentation listen to Julian Robinson and saying, okay, that as a realistic citizen, not because I'm a supporter of the Jamaica Labour Party, but being a realistic Jamaican, I think this would be best for the two, or I think that would make sense to two, neighbor. Nothing that Robinson said today, neighbor, made any sense to me, neighbor. As I said, this was a budget, neighbor, where we're coming out of a disaster. This is a crisis budget, neighbor, a crisis that is to build back the agriculture sector, build back the tourism sector, neighbor. But instead of hearing him asking for us to put more levy or put more acts and more revenues from tourists who are coming in the island and stuff like that. Flat, neighbor, baseless and empty, neighbor. That's all I can say from Julian Robinson. That didn't entice me in any way, shape, or form.
Listeners, TikTok is asking you to keep the live more active by commenting and tapping.
Okay.
gosh. Oh gosh.
A neighbor, if a blind man could say, neighbor, who wrote that speech to the neighbor? If a blind man or a deaf man could say who wrote that speech
Oh
to them?
gosh.
Say that first, did not hear you.
Now I said even a blind man or a deaf man neighbor could say who wrote that speech to the neighbor.
He's already.
Oh gosh.
The biggest cheerleader was beside him, neighbor. The man know every word of the speech. The man know every word of the speech, neighbor. That's the guy who wrote the speech.
I'm only writing.
Yes, neighbor, at one point he made a mistake and Mr. Golden could correct him as a 71%. Everything Mr. Golden could preempt him. Yes, I know it's a collective effort, but I can tell you, neighbor, that it's Mark Jefferson Golden who really, neighbor, crafted that speech, neighbor.
By the way, Robinson today is scratchy. By the way, hold on, let me take down this. Mr. Robinson Scratchy argued that the government tax package disproportionately affects lower income Jamaicans recovering from the hurricane. How valid is that critique from an economic
Again, neighbor, another misleading statement again, neighbor. I heard it when he said that
yes,
most vulnerable persons who go into the supermarket will see an increase in their prices. Again, very misleading again, neighbor, misleading the public, neighbor. The tax package in terms of it's targeted, neighbor, to our neighbor. This tax package, neighbor, is crafted in such a way, neighbor, where I can tell you that not even the man who drink rum, not even the man who drink sweet drink, neighbor, I go feel any extra squeeze in an income, neighbor. I go feel anything extra, neighbor. I feel like so because of this tax, if you like sweet drink, you cannot buy your sweet drink, or because of this tax, if you like rum, you can't buy your rum, neighbor. This tax, neighbor, is not gonna have no effect, neighbor, on the persons who use these products, neighbor. And for Mr. Robinson to come into the parliament, neighbor, and say that this would have a wide range impact on the on Jamaicans, neighbor, to make it look like say every single Jamaicans, neighbor, who use these products, neighbor, will suffer the consequence of these products, neighbor. Again, very, very misleading, neighbor. Very, very misleading from Mr. Robinson, neighbor. He talk about some Mr. Joe down at St. James, saying that Mr. Joe car got damaged in the hurricane, neighbor, and Mr. Joe have to be fixing his car. Mr. Joe car should have some form of insurance on it, neighbor. You know, those things are insurance. So Mr. Robinson is sick, neighbor. Sometimes I wonder this opposition, neighbor, they think before they come and talk. Because if a man car is damaged in the hurricane, neighbor, that's not the responsibility of the government to fix back your car. That is not the responsibility of the government, neighbor, to come fix back anyone car who got damaged in the hurricane, neighbor. That's the responsibility of the insurance company. So Mr. Robinson to come to Parliament and make analogy like that, neighbor, and saying that person's car, a man car will get damaged, he don't even have to fix back him car up anymore. He's supposed to fix back him car up anymore and seek to go to him insurance. Again, neighbor, the PNP misleading, is flat and baseless, neighbor, proposal to the from Mr. Robinson.
Oh gosh.
Listeners, we really need you to tap, okay?
Oh gosh.
why Scratchy, Joe Salt.
Joe Salt, neighbor, Joe Salt, man. Joe, I forgot get him car fixed. When insurance come for the cover that Joe. Come get car fixed for the car, Joe.
Oh gosh.
Asking everyone to please tap the screen.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh.
Why I tell you. I think the law says in Jamaica you're not supposed to drive a car without insurance.
Exactly, neighbor. You should not have a vehicle without insurance, neighbor. A vehicle is considered a luxury item, neighbor. That is something that you can do without. So the government responsibility, neighbor, is not to compensate nobody for a luxury item. Those are things that you can do without. The government provide a public transportation system where people can move from point A to point B. So the government cannot take any responsibility to fix your car. So every time Mr. Robinson came to Parliament today talking about Joe down in St. James. Come on, man, Mr. Robinson, man. Pure, the real Mr. Robinson, someone who's seeking to be a prospective Minister of Finance, and you have come with an argument like that. I tell you that this guy didn't write the speech. He did not write that speech, neighbor. And I can tell neighbor that they didn't give Damian Crawford any chance in the speech neither. Because I don't see anything in the speech with Damian Crawford. Damian Crawford was left out of this one.
Scratchy, who you think come up with the case studies?
Oh, that man, Mark Golding, man. Mark Golding is have to believe that he's the brightest thing in the parliament, And he can do all of this, This guy has to believe that he's the greatest corporate lawyer. So he know all of these things. He's the greatest thing you can create a bill and all of these things. And from I hear the speech, Harry, Mark Golding was written all over this speech. All over it, Mark Golding was. You notice Mr. Robinson talk about the 400,000 Jamaican. That is Mark Golding. That's Mark Golding.
Yeah. You know, Harry Scratchy. Budget debates are also about leadership perception. Did Mr. Robinson performance project the level of confidence expected from someone who could one day replace Fable Williams? As you listen to him today, Harry, did you see that?
I'm still waiting for the full-on substance when it comes on to what was tabled, because the thing about it, and when I got through Neighbor, his highlighted plan have so many flaws, way too much flaws, and I'm going to break down because I knew some of the flaws had a framework problem, and the biggest framework individual in the People's National Party right now is the opposition leader. So when Julian is going to talk about the mandate for the reformation of sugar contents, Neighbor, by manufacturers and importers, if I jog your memory, Neighbor, you remember when I used the comparison between the percentage of sugar content, compared that to the taxing of alcohol and how they did it? That is what Julian Robinson has alluded to, Neighbor. And I would have pointed out that, I wonder if he was listening probably the night and run with the idea. And I pointed it out to you that would have been flawed, because what you're going to do now is add pressure on the manufacturers who can easily shift the sugar content to go into a different area, which still has the same damage which we're trying to remove. And what Julian did with that is you are now targeting manufacturers. So for example, Neighbor, you and Scratchy have two competing products, product A, product B. Scratchy have a 75 grams in sugar, you have a 70 in sugar, but the required amount is 65. What will happen now is when Scratchy try drop it down to 65, his product will become a new product because it will not have the same taste, it will not have the same appeal. So what manufacturers will look at is to say, hey, we're not doing this, we're going to push back because you're going to affect the actual product that I put out. And then now you start a war between the private sector and yourself in terms of the government. You cannot do that. Now, if you look at it as well, Neighbor, he went in terms of to say the whole electronic system for TAJ. Neighbor, that was the biggest blunder anybody could have come with. Because I stopped at 6 questions after finding 15. Now, if you're going to improve the TAJ, right, to collect this $8 billion, which is, he says, is 2% as to what we can, put to the budget. He quoted Chile, Uruguay, Mexico, Peru. All those countries, one, have a larger population than us significantly. Their cultural setup is also different. Their financial sector framework is nothing compared to that of Jamaica. We are far out from those countries. And that would have caused a serious implementation phase. So, for example, and I ensured that I made a note on it because it didn't make any sense to me. Julian Robinson could not speak on what is this framework that he will put in for the TAJ. How do you get it across the board, right? What cost is it going to be on the backs of all Jamaicans, not some? Because you have to pay this money. I know Sheffin would have said 2 to 4 million. It's a lot more than that, Sheffin. Because you'd have to first overhaul the TAJ system, neighbor. And that is a whole different money. Now, if you look at what is the time frame are we working with? How long will it take us to get the system online so we can collect the money? Or even first, make back the money where we're going to spend. Right? What is the fiscal and monetary policy requires for this implementation? How are you going to ensure that you can enforce it? Because he wants it to be mandated. Right? And that makes no sense. How do you regulate the different types of businesses? What businesses get it? He mentioned point of sale. Not every business is going to need that point of sale aspect of it. And one of the biggest things, neighbor, again, using you and Scratchy having this time of business. And let's say Caroline come and purchase something from Scratchy, and that data goes directly to this system. But guess what happened now? Sheffrey need a refund. How does that fall within the framework? Because the information would have already passed to TAJ to say Scratchy made this sale. How do you align it? And that was just one small mishap that happens on a day-to-day, neighbor. Julian Robinson can't answer these things. And one of the biggest things, we're in a data era, neighbor. How does he ensure data security? Because this information will be passed right through, and he has no central hub. Which institution? Is it the BOJ that's going to hold this data? Because it can't be the tax TAJ. Because they don't have the capacity to do so. So again, you know, have to go and probably build out an entire IT department, revolutionize it, and you still don't collect the money yet. Now, it goes to the aspect as to what are the laws now, which means parliament comes into play. And neighbor, you and I know very well that anything, any law, any bill rather, to become law in parliament takes years.
Yeah.
Because first it has to go to the upper house, which is the Senate. And it's going to have to be deliberated through probably for a year or two. Remember, I know we need this money. So is it that when the next election come, it will get implemented, the law pass, and then we try to implement it? Look at the problem we're having where we want to do the reformation, neighbor, want to move to a republic. And the opposition can't settle with it. It is the same situation we're going to be looking at, and that has been in talks for years. And this is why I said Julian Robinson putting this forward has an implementation problem. Now, there's a specific thing, neighbor, in terms of holding data. Where, and I'm going to use the example for BOJ. BOJ says all financial institutions should hold data mandatory for minimum 7 years. After which, they can dispose of it. Some institutions hold it a little longer than others. Neighbor, where and what institution, because it can't be the TAJ either, will be able to hold this data? Neighbor, you know how hard it is to burn through storage? I know now if you look on your little phone, you're probably close to 100% data storage burn up. And we're talking about a whole lot of data here where that can be compromised. These countries that he quoted took years to put this in place. It's not something where you come to Jamaica and just say, you say it and you think it's implemented. It's nonsensical. And what you would be doing now is setting up Jamaica for failure, because you're going to uproot so many things with no time frame in mind. You don't know what are the necessary resources for it. You also can't state how much money it will cost. All of Jamaica, again, not just a few, not the 401,913 people that he quoted. It's going to take almost 3 million of us, and that is also another debt that would be placed on us. So when Julian, and I know he didn't crunch the numbers, which is why Scratchy I say Damon Crawford should have crunched the numbers for him. You cannot enforce something like this because we have an enforcement problem in Jamaica. So you first have to go through all of this and then try to figure out the guidance of how to enforce it. And people will always find a way to go around it. So you can't say something that is, it's all good in theory in a neighbor. Would love for it to be done, but it is not practical. it is not realistic, and it's not applicable to Jamaica of today. Because if you look at it, neighbor, and I'm going to use this one that is in the run for about 3 years now. We're trying to use, and the Minister of Finance spoke on it, trying to have this one bank system, right? Where you can move information across banks. So if you open one account with Scotia, the information can pass on if you're going to for probably NCB or whosoever. Make it easier.
Yes.
Neighbor, how long now that has been in operation in the implementation stage? Years. And that is the challenge with what Julian Robinson is putting across to the people of Jamaica, letting people think that, oh yeah man, you can just snap your fingers and it's done. It is impractical. It is not applicable to Jamaica. And he needs, and the People's National Party needs to stop selling lies. Give the reality to the people of Jamaica. You want to say you are fixing the no. That isn't something for the no. That is something we'll probably be still fighting to put in place for a decade, which can't be done that easily. We aren't at that stage yet. So it's good, to hear all these case studies, and that's what he used to let it seem valid and viable. Welcome to Jamaica. Inapplicable. I need to go back to the drawing board and think of something better, neighbor. Because that is not it. It leaves more questions than answers. And that is a trap he fell in after accusing the finance minister of saying she didn't speak on the Digital Services Act. He himself haven't spoken anything in terms of how he will be able to do this. It is almost, if not the same, like the 3.5 million campaign, neighbor. They would have run with something in the election to say, yes, everybody selling them a dream, and couldn't tell us how they could put it in place, how they can afford it. And that was before Melissa. And if we're asking them how could it be done, no, it's even worse. And it is the same thing with this that he's trying to put forward. Stop selling Jamaica a dream. Be realistic.
Wow. Well, thank you. I'm going to ask my moderator to open the lines. Listeners, I don't know if you want to engage the team. Harry Scratchy is going to be here with us until 10 o'clock. Scratchy? The PNP, Scratchy, has now lost 3 consecutive elections. Does the party current messaging resonate with the modern electorate they are trying to convince, or does it still reflect the instinct formed in earlier decades? I'm Scratchy. After 3 election loss, position the PNP for me. What is it that they are saying to the Jamaican people?
Again, neighbor, I don't think the PNP, neighbor, is trying to engage the Jamaicans in totality, neighbor. I think the PNP is just trying to engage, neighbor, the 400,000 of Jamaicans who voted for them, neighbor. And never in my history, neighbor, I have seen where an opposition party, neighbor, comes to a national budget debate or a national budget presentation, neighbor. A budget that will have the impact, neighbor, on every single person, neighbor, whether you voted PNP or whether you voted JLP or whether you didn't participate in the electoral process. And it's an embarrassment, neighbor, to know that you can come to a budget presentation and you're going to come and highlight 400,000 persons who went out and voted in support of your political organization. That is total madness, neighbor. That is total craziness, neighbor. The People's National Party, neighbor, has never, neighbor, I tell you this before, neighbor, these guys, they don't know when, neighbor, to be a political organization, neighbor, and when to be an opposition, neighbor. They just don't understand it, and they don't know that even when it comes to the parliament, neighbor, when it comes to the parliament, it's not about PNP and JLP in the parliament. It is about the government and the opposition. It's about governance, Jamaicans' best interests at heart. You're not here to talk about only who voted for you. So neighbor, I think the PNP is last, neighbor, to a level where they just believe, neighbor, that those who voted for them are the ones who they're trying to keep these people on a certain level or try to rally these people all the while.
Yes.
Try to play at the minds of these people, neighbor. And it is not gaining them any form of traction. It is not selling it. It is not looking good for them. And it is distasteful, neighbor. And well-thinking Jamaicans, neighbor, should call them out and see how you cannot come to a budget presentation where you are here to talk about the war 2.8 or 3 million of us, whether we are local, whether you are in Jamaica or outside of Jamaica. As long as they hold a Jamaican citizenship, and you travel back and forth to that country, you send remittance or whatever to that country. You talk to all of us and you come and talk about the 400. That's a spit in all of us face, neighbor. Right there, then all of us should just disconnect it from this guy, neighbor, and turn off the TV or whatever listening device we use to get information from them. Because the guy is spitting all of us face, neighbor. Despite I never voted for the People's National Party, neighbor. I wanted to know what the alternative government was coming with.
Well, hold on. Why did you listen? Why did you listen to him?
Neighbor, I listened today, neighbor, because these guys are all trying to be the alternative government, neighbor. And when it comes to the budget presentation, neighbor, I know for myself, neighbor, that the budget presentation is not about PNP or JLP, neighbor. The budget presentation should be about what is in the best interest of Jamaica and Jamaicans. Or we can use this budget presentation. What are you going to come and rebut that the finance minister said yesterday that it makes sense where the finance minister herself and the government themselves can say, all right, Julian Robinson, you know, you raise a great point, and this way you're saying it makes sense, you know, we're going to look into it. Like I see Nigel Clark done that before. I see Nigel Clark telling that I'm going to look into this, but you say, but when you come and you talk about the 400,000 people who voted for you, you spit right in my face as a Jamaican. It's like you're telling me that you're not catering to me because I didn't vote for the People's National Party in the last election. So whatever you come and talk about today is not for me. And that is total craziness, it's total madness, because your salary or whatever salary you're getting is not the 400,000 Jamaicans alone who organize your salary. And I can tell you that if it was up to the 400,000 Jamaicans alone who voted as the PNP, People's National Party, and this is no disrespect to these people, you would have never have the salary that you're getting right now, because they would never make up your salary, because most of them are not in the formal tax system, most of them are not in the formal economy, most of them don't contribute to a certain level towards the development and the advancement of Jamaica. So you need to understand that your salary that you collect every month, a lot of us who voted for Jamaica play a great role in you getting your salary, because we are the ones who are paying tax, we are the ones who are well-thinking Jamaicans, we are the ones who are business operators, and we are the ones who believe in the advancement and the development of our country, whether you are PNP or JLP. I just saying about Julian Robinson Liam. Today I hear you talk again about talking about the government should take the lead role in cutting sugar and sugary substances in schools. I don't know about rural Jamaica, neighbor, but I am familiar with, I don't know about rural Jamaica, I am familiar with urban Jamaica, neighbor, and urban schools, neighbor. I don't know if bulla and cherry malt milk is still being distributed in schools. And I hear this guy talking about the government need to cut the sugary product in cherry malt milk and bullas. I am not sure if bulla and milk is still being distributed in schools, neighbor. So if bulla and milk is not still distributed, it shows you, neighbor, how far Julian Robinson is from the reality. Yes, you know that the nutrition product company, neighbor, is a company that is tasked with the responsibility, neighbor, to offset some of the costs in schools, neighbor, in terms of the snacks that they distribute. But I think we past bulla and cherry malt milk days. I think it's different type of things being distributed right now. So again, neighbor, it doesn't look good, it doesn't spell well, neighbor, for someone who's trying to be the alternative finance minister. Is going to come up and just spew things, neighbor, and not knowing the reality of what is going on in the country. And Julian Robinson, neighbor, once again, he met Mark Golding set him up, neighbor, because the opposition, neighbor, if you understand the opposition, neighbor, there's not much, neighbor, out there for them to criticize this government and neighbor. And Mark Jefferson Golding is not going to, it's two persons from the opposition have to speak, neighbor. Julian Robinson has to speak, and the opposition leader has to speak, neighbor. And there's not much out there where they can criticize this government and neighbor. So Julian Robinson, Mark Golding set him up once again as an alternative, as an opposition spokesperson and finance, neighbor, with an empty speech, neighbor, a baseless speech, neighbor, a speech that is not in reality of what Jamaicans are going through right now, neighbor. The budget that was presented by the Minister of Finance on Tuesday is a budget, neighbor, that is a crisis response budget, neighbor. It's a budget that is responding to a crisis. And what Julian Robinson came with today, neighbor, as an opposition spokesperson, it didn't match nothing that the finance minister came with, neighbor. He came with some far-fetched ideas, neighbor, some ideas that will take that will take 15, 20 years for these things to come in play. Not in our current situation. And it is such a shame, neighbor, that we have these people in parliament paying them this big salary, call themselves opposition spokesman and finance, neighbor, and you can't even come with a statement or a presentation that match the reality of what our Jamaicans or well-thinking Jamaicans are going through. Again, I stand to be corrected, neighbor, but I don't think cherry malt milk and bulla is still being distributed in schools. So I agree, yes, that the government can cut the sugary stance in some of these products, but again, it still wouldn't help nothing. It wouldn't change the price of rice or nothing same way. The government would have still had to come with this tax revenue package. Persons who smoke cigarette, wide range, all of us don't smoke cigarette, neighbor. School children don't smoke cigarette, they're not supposed to. Every single Jamaican don't smoke cigarette. Persons who drink alcohol, every single person in Jamaica don't drink alcohol again. So that was a misleading statement again, saying that persons going to supermarket are going to see an increase in prices. Neighbor, I can tell you this, neighbor, that rum that is being said in Jamaica, every single shop, every single stall in Jamaica that sell rum, it is already not being sold, neighbor, at the regulatory price. Jamaicans price them own goods, neighbor, to them own fittings and them own price. Jamaica price them own goods. So that 10 neighbor was the fact that he turned up and made the presentation, neighbor. If it wasn't for that neighbor, I wouldn't get two. Just in terms of the fact that he turned up, I wouldn't get two for.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Scratchy. Hold on there for me. Protecting Jamaica, good night to you, sir. Hello? Hello, sir? Okay. I'm not seeing his microphone open. Until he opens his microphone. Scratchy, a comment. You said last week that you were aware that constituents in West Kingston were unhappy with Dr. Dawes' characterization of your MP. We see he has since issued an apology. A comment on that?
As I said, neighbor, I told you, neighbor, that an apology was definitely that was coming, neighbor. I knew he had to apologize, neighbor, without a doubt, neighbor. That whatever was being planned, neighbor, it was called off because he apologized to the minister in person, neighbor. The minister accepted his apology. So whatever plan, protest in rebuttal to Mr. Dawes, neighbor, it had to be called off because of the fact that the minister accepted the apology. But definitely, neighbor, I expected that, neighbor. Well, as I said, I already said something earlier, neighbor, that these new member of parliaments, neighbor, that are on the opposition benches, neighbor, they are not statesmen, neighbor, nor stateswoman, neighbor. They in their personal life, neighbor, they came across to us as professionals. But I think since their entrance in politics, neighbor, they have showed us their true character and who they really is or who they really are, neighbor. And I can safely say, neighbor, that I am not pleased with where my country is right now in terms of the persons who sit in my parliament, neighbor. Your parliament is also a reflection of your country. And looking at the parliament, neighbor, if it wasn't for the 35 persons on the Jamaica Labour Party benches, neighbor, I can tell you that we'd have been shambles, neighbor. So the 35 and the 28 over that side, neighbor, it goes to show you the totally different in contrast with these two different set of people. Two different set of people, neighbor. When you look at what the government benches, neighbor, it's the professionals, it's the persons who understand how governance operates, it's the persons who want the best interests of Jamaica at heart. You know, when you look at a Daryl Vaz, neighbor, you look at how this man is working, you know. In all of the every agency, every department, neighbor, that fall under Daryl Vaz's responsibility, neighbor, is fired up and working, you know. You look at a young Samuda. When you look at a young Samuda, neighbor, Mr. Samuda has come and revamp Water Commission. Water Commission was a failing entity. And we see where Mr. Samuda, neighbor, has stand up with Water Commission, neighbor. Now Water Commission have water projects going off the left, right, and center Jamaica. Jamaicans will never have water for 30, 40 years. When you look at a young Nesta Morgan, now, neighbor, Minister of Works, very, 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 very big ministry. When you look at what is going on in that ministry, neighbor, you have to say, yes, wonderful work carried out by a young minister. When you look at the opposition benches, neighbor, you know, when you look at even someone like a Damian Crawford, you know, someone who we thought, neighbor, had so much potential and has lost his way, neighbor. I saw him at the committee the other day when Mr. Warmington had to put him in his place and tell him, don't come in the parliament and campaign. And my problem with Mr. Crawford, neighbor, is that the only time Mr. Crawford come across serious is when he put Eileen I'm here or when him do him here. I don't understand why it's only when you do your year you choose to be serious. Or when you're in a jacket and tie. Outside of that, neighbor, these guys are shambles of the reality of who he is in parliament. Trying to trick us, like you think you can trick us. You can't trick us. When you look at a Chris Brown, neighbor. persons who have not contributed much to the development of Jamaica neighbor and have their and you know, get a chance to come sit in our parliament and don't know what they are doing. They look like a Omar Newell. They look at they look like even Nikisha Burchell neighbor trying so hard to be Lisa Anna. You would never be a Miss World. You might be a Miss, but never be the Miss World. So what you can say neighbor that it's far from our reality neighbor. There's a shamble neighbor, opposition benches neighbor. It's opposition benches neighbor. If I came from space and I was to look at the opposition benches neighbor and use these persons to judge the advancement and the development of Jamaica neighbor, I would have classified Jamaica as a failing state neighbor.
Fantastic. Protecting, are you there now? No. All right. Fabulous 40. Good night.
Good night, neighbor.
Good night.
I don't know why Caroline always tries to throw me up in the box, but I'm always listening. And as Scratchy said, just to enhance, when they realize that they didn't win the election, Scratchy, they come to Parliament with like them come to say turmoil in the Parliament. That's what they are in there about. So, okay, it is not going to be pretty, and they just decided on that. They decided to try to abuse the Speaker of the House. They have no decorum. They have nothing. They just behave in anyhow like it's their house. And I'm yet to see some sort of disciplinary action drop up against these people. I'm yet to see that. And I don't know why this hasn't been happening.
Fantastic. Is this Bridget?
No, neighbor. This is Flowers.
Flowers. I don't change the name, sir.
Scratchy, I don't know what happened, but they took the original account, so that's why.
Okay.
All right. We're gonna have to bring the
curtains down. Good Flowers.
Excuse me, please.
All right.
Please allow me to interrupt, listeners. I think we're going to have to close early because they're constantly reporting the live, and the page is being threatened to shut down. Could you all please type F1, please?
Well, Harry.
Well,
let's do the round table and wrap. So today, Harry, a disappointing day for the opposition. You think that their opening batsman let down the team, eh?
Neighbor, him get a one leader, him gone for the Ducks because if I'm supposed to put it in a cricket terms, neighbor, when you're walking out to open the innings and you're playing all these strokes in mid-air, warming up, which looks very impressive until I get to the wicket. That is exactly what Julian Robinson ended up doing to the neighbor, because he would have think within himself that he could appeal and appease the Jamaican people, but he narrowed it down to 401,913 people. That was the indication to the nation as to who he is representing, not the 2.8 to 3 million people. And that is consistent. I'm going to give the People's National Party that. They've been consistent in telling us who they are going to defend.
Yes.
Make no mistake about it. And as such, they've operated right along those lines. They've never changed that line of argument. And they've always found an opportunity to remind us. And that is the thing about it. They are not looking to do things for the country, but for a portion of or a segment of. That is consistent with the opposition leader, consistent with his MPs, and in this case, his member of parliament and the opposition, finance minister. But it is something that is underwhelming. I got a lot more musical aspects out of it, the beating of the benches, neighbor. It was almost like they had to hype up the presentation after every two sentences by beating the desk. It was like you were also trying to I don't want to mislead, but to distract the people from the very words that are coming out. Because to be honest, neighbor, I was fine today until I started listening it. And this may not be a fault of him, but the correlation is there. I got a headache 20 minutes within the speech because the numbers weren't adding up. The was not it. And that is because I would have understand and have a great understanding as to the wide cross section of to what he's trying to say and where he's referencing, which is well over the average Jamaica's head. And he packaged it that way to literally go over some of the people in head. So they would hear all these big things and all these case studies and references, thinking that, yeah, man, they're applicable, they're valid. Jamaica can move for the future. No. It was all a melting pot of a crashing disaster, neighbor, when he opened up a can of worms that he should have never opened. His speech would have been safer if he had left that 2007 period because he brought Jamaica. Go ahead.
I think so too. I think so too.
He did a great injustice, and I think, neighbor, he brought back a little PTSD to the people of Jamaica to remind them indirectly of that period. It's a period where we're still fighting to get away from, neighbor, and as such, the People's National Party should never ever do anything to recall that. It's not something you want to do.
Psychologically, it would be better for us to forget it, eh?
Exactly, neighbor.
No, in terms of a grade, out of 10, how would you score Robinson?
I'd give him a 4, neighbor. Here's why. He got the people to. I think he would have gotten the people to think that a lot was being. The team support was there because you have to break up how you're grading them. Entertainment, yes. He brought some case studies, which you could say there is some research. Are they applicable? No. So you would have lost points there again. In terms of connecting to the people of Jamaica, they weren't attempting to do so. They actually attempted to do a portion of. And in terms of true substance that can rebuild the now and going into the future, we didn't get that. So he missed the theme set by his leader. And the theme in which they're supposed to be running with. So it's almost like they brought him and said, this is a thesis you should work on. And he's going to work on his own thing. That in itself is what we're seeing. A lot of mismanaging of his own speech was there. So I can't give him even a half of the grade, neighbor. He has to go back to the drawing board. He has to restudy about Jamaica and come to something that is applicable to the 2.8 to 3 million of us, plus the diaspora. Because they ran on the diaspora as well when they wanted to put somebody there in the Senate. Remember, that was one of their plans,
Yes.
And you missed the wide Jamaica. In fact, we have moved up to in the top 10 when it comes down to the large group of diaspora in the world. When it comes down to percentage, we're in the top 10 in the world, and you missed everybody. And that's not somebody you can give a high grade, especially when you are vying and want to be the next finance minister of Jamaica. So it's a no for me, neighbor.
Well, thank you. We should touch a little. Tomorrow is Friday, no?
Neighbor.
Yeah, I think tomorrow we can do a little bit more on this. But I noticed that whenever we're assessing the opposition, the live gets into a lot of problems. I don't know why, but so many of my features have been locked down on my end here. So we're gonna have to bring the curtains down on the program a little prematurely tonight. But we should be back tomorrow. Scratchy should be back tomorrow, and we're lining up for the big show on Saturday.
Definitely.
Yeah, man. So thank you for stopping by and bringing your perspective. That was so refreshing and regular and so needed. So Harry gave him 4. You gave him 2, Scratchy. 2. You're not prepared to adjust your grade?
No, neighbor, definitely 2. As I said, neighbor, in the context, neighbor, of what Jamaican is going through, neighbor, coming out of a disaster, neighbor, I didn't hear much, neighbor. I was expecting to come much talking about the persons who in the disaster area. I didn't hear much about it, neighbor.
Yes.
If he even did touch on it to a small degree, he only touched on persons who were representative from constituencies where he's member of parliament. He didn't talk about the parish in totally. He definitely pointed out a specific member of parliament from his side who's a PFP.
Yes.
So that was very distasteful to me, neighbor. It didn't show any form of of patriotism, neighbor. It's like, even though it was a disaster, you're still playing on the persons who supported your party. So I two, neighbor, I stick with my two for him, neighbor. Poor presentation, content, neighbor, poor, not in the reality of what is going on, neighbor, in terms of a crisis. And then my reason for giving him two, neighbor, just based on the fact that, neighbor, that he showed up. So that's my reason for giving him two. I'm not going to say that Julian Robinson, neighbor, is the most stupid person on the People's National Party benches, neighbor, but I can tell Mr. Robinson that if Mark Golden should leave the PNP, neighbor, he will definitely be vying for the #1 spot, neighbor.
Have a fantastic night, my brother. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Every thought, this is